another celebration of the literary arts here in Saskatchewan. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome William Robertson. Now, William teaches English and creative writing at the University of Saskatchewan. He reviews books for the Star Phoenix and has written 5 books of poetry. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Danica. Good to be here.
So today we're here to talk about Decoys.
Decoys.
Your latest book. So give me just a little bit of a sketch. If somebody hadn't picked up the book, what would you say to them about Decoys?
Well, it would be, I guess a superficial answer would be it's about nature. Over the years, I have written a number of poems that I always thought kind of saw the world through the lens of nature. And I didn't really have anything to do with them, so I put them aside. And then one day I realized I had quite a few poems that saw the world through the lens of nature, so I put them together into this manuscript.
And you've spent a lot of time in nature. You've spent a lot of time on the highways as you've done your teaching jobs throughout the province, especially in northern Saskatchewan. And I suppose you've seen a lot of birds, because birds play heavy in this book.
Yeah, birds figure predominantly in the book, and I have seen a lot of birds. I've taken lunch breaks sitting at the side of the road and with my binoculars, and also fish. I do a lot of fishing, and I get fishing poems in there. Hunting, various other things. Flowers. My mom was really keen on flowers, so I get in a few of those things as well. So there you are.
Would you like to read us a short
Yeah,
poem?
I could read you one. I picked one that I thought was fairly seasonal, and it's a bird poem. It's called Just Sparrows. I know how many more house sparrows we have than robins, warblers, jays. Hear them in every bush and tree, scolding, singing, their raucous parliaments spilling into the street. Have heard the ornithologists scoff at what the merlin takes. Know my Darwin, know the numbers, know exactly what color nature is in beak and little claw. But I can't help hating the crow this morning in its black calculation, moving from pole to wire to limb amidst a growing concentration of sparrows watching it steal one of their young, back to pole for a surer grasp, off quietly down the lane, the little life in its beak assuredly past, the many sparrows a-quiver with their version of horror, frustration, entirely unfamiliar in their tiny bird brains with how many of their babies they can afford to lose.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh.
So when you think about this stack that started to grow and finally had enough for a collection, how long did it take to gather up that? How many years had you been writing those nature poems?
Well, the poems in the book go back at least to probably about 85.
Wow.
But it didn't take me long once I put my mind to it. I mean, I just sat down and started to go through this backlog of poems. I think the toughest part for a person, dare I say, at my age, is going back into my computer program, and you know, between the time you typed in a poem, say 20 years ago, and the time you go looking for it now, you've probably bought or run 2 or 3 different computer systems, and they're filed in different places, and I can't remember what I called. You know, I had some clever way of filing it, but I think what I did is, once I got through teaching for the year, I sat down and I really poured the coal to it, and I pulled it together in about 4 months.
So were there pieces that surprised you when you found them again, that you really didn't remember those images that clearly?
Oh yeah, that's always a pleasant surprise. Various creative writing people will tell you, you know, write the poem and put it away for a while and then get it out later. Well, I got some of these out 10 years later, and honestly, I was rather surprised by some of the ones that made it into the book. Are the ones that I went, I like that. The ones that went into file 13 are the ones I went, nope, not then, not now, not ever. You know, off they go. Yeah.
And so this is your 5th collection.
Yeah.
What are the themes of the other 4 books?
The other books are a lot to do with family, with coming from a small town. I grew up in a small town in Saskatchewan, and They have to do with, the rural life, as 'twere. I'm very much keen on Saskatchewan life, the way people live, just your regular people, and the way they talk, what their concerns are. And so there's a mix in my books of, I seem to veer back and forth between family and rural Saskatchewan. And then this was a bit of a departure. This was off, here we were looking at birds and looking at turtles.
But you pull that in anyways. You do pull in stories of members of your family, your friends. There's some names that we recognize in the book, and it is small town life to go outside and just open your eyes and see what's going on in the world around you.
Well, that's all the book is asking you to do, in a sense. Although I'm not asking anybody to do anything. It's just, as you say, it's about keeping your eyes open, keeping your ears open, and when you can be on the University of Saskatchewan campus. And you can be walking across campus and you can hear certain bird and you can go, I know what that is. And I'm that guy that's, doing this while people are rushing around trying to get to their next class or worrying about their essay, So this isn't to say I don't worry about anything, but it's keep your ears and your eyes open and you see things, yeah.
Well, and I think that that's a beautiful gift that you have as a poet and some other poets have, is just looking at the world with those eyes open. So many people it's just go, 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 and they don't stop and see what's going on the side of the road when you're driving down that highway.
Well, that's what dear old William Wordsworth said a couple hundred years ago, getting and spending, we lay waste our power. And I think, a lot of us, we're living in this system that is telling us to, get and spend. And it's the way we keep the system moving. I get it. I'm not some raving lunatic who's trying to go against that. It's just along the way, I like to notice things. And I think that's what they pay poets the big, big bucks for, is to, if you want to stop and say, what is it that we should be noticing? People do pick up books of poetry and take a look at them and say, oh, my goodness. Which isn't to say you don't get the same from novels as well, or a good song, things like that. People are just saying, stop, take a look at this. Yeah, it's good.
And some people are afraid of poetry, though. But
oh, yeah.
It's very accessible. This book is very accessible. It really has that just stop and look and listen feel to it.
Yeah, I've always been very interested in the language that people speak and try to hear that voice. And so sometimes that's me, sometimes that's someone else that's talking. But it's trying to just be the real person that I know and tell what I saw, make that observation, give that anecdote, that sort of thing, so I can say, here, you can look at this too. And I tell people that. I say, don't be afraid. Come on in, have a look. You might see something there that you recognize.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's the connection that we have to reading somebody else's poetry or listening to it being read aloud. And I really enjoy listening to you read your poetry out loud as well.
Oh, thank you.
But it's that connection when you can talk about some horrible buzzing creature. There's a poem in there that's that made us all itch. When you were reading that at Word on the Street during the summer, it was a moment where everybody felt exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, the horrible buzzing creatures. Well, they buzz and they sing and they caw and they do all sorts of things. And all we have to do is take a look around and there they are. It's a beautiful, beautiful world if we take the time to have a look at it. Yeah.
Well, Bill, that's about all the time we have for today.
All right.
Thank you so much for being on the show and talking about decoys today.
Well, thanks for having me here. It's good to be here. Thank you, Danica.
I'm Danica Lorer, and this is Lit Happens. You can find past episodes by going to Shaw TV Saskatoon on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter, or you can email me if you have an idea for a show. I'm at danicalorer@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.